Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grunwald. This week, my guest is Leslie Morris, founder and CEO of Woman of the Dream. Leslie is a native of Long Branch, New Jersey. She grew up in public housing under the watchful eyes of powerful men and women of faith, integrity, and character. Leslie has spent most of her career in community-based healthcare at the local, statewide, and national levels. In 2007, Leslie released her first book entitled How You Like Me Now, which is an inspirational autobiography that provides vivid snapshots into her life's journey as a child growing up in public housing. Leslie has used the book as a platform to inspire and motivate young people. In 2012, in partnership with Campbell Soup Company, under the leadership of then President and CEO Denise Morrison, Leslie launched the not-for-profit organization Woman of the Dream. The organization is dedicated to improving the lives of girls and young women in underserved areas. Please subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel, stream this podcast on all streaming sites, like us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. Also go to todayisthedayliveit.com for more information about how I help my clients connect, collaborate, create, and inspire. I am also the CEO and co-founder of the Zach G. Applauder Kids Foundation, a not-for-profit organization dedicated to helping children living with financial barriers take ongoing lessons in dance, acting, instrumental music, and vocal instruction. Visit applauderkids.org for more information. Have a fabulous week, everyone. Hi, everyone. This is Jody Grunwald, and welcome back to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am so excited, like I am every single week. I say that every single week because I have the most amazing guests. And today I have Leslie Morris, who is the CEO and founder of Woman of the Dream. Hi, Leslie. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. The story, what you've done to create Women of the Dream is incredible. I want more people to learn about it. You've been doing amazing things. And I'm going to read a little from your bio, and then we're going to have a great conversation.
Okay.
So Leslie is a native of Long Branch, New Jersey. She grew up in the Seaview Manor public housing complex under the watchful eyes of powerful men and women of faith, integrity, and character. And she is the daughter of the late Nathaniel and Christine Morris, granddaughter of the late Susie Newsom and Lester and Sarah Morris, and sibling of Randy Phillips, Carol, and Rodney Morris, all of Long Branch. So you've got a long line of Long Branch people.
Yes.
In your family. You spent most of your career in community-based healthcare at the local, statewide, and national levels. And in 1987, she developed and implemented the first comprehensive school-based health center in the state of New Jersey. Under the auspices of the Jersey City Medical Center and Jersey City Family Health Center, Leslie served as the director of the school-based health center for 12 years. While there, she distinguished herself in several ways. She implemented one of the first school-based HIV testing programs in the nation and founded a nationally recognized teen abstinence program that culminated in 3 appearances on CBS. Under her direction, the program offered comprehensive programs and services to the student population. Following 12 years in Jersey City, she was called to work on a national level at the National Association of Community Health Centers in Washington, D.C., where she served 5 years as director of the Adolescent and School Health Initiative funded by the Center for Disease Control. Leslie resumed working in New Jersey as the New Jersey Primary Care Associate for the New Jersey Primary Care Association in Hamilton, New Jersey, which was at the NJPCA, is a membership organization for the state's network of community health partners and health centers that serve poor and other underserved communities. But in 2007, Leslie released her first book entitled How You Like Me Now, which is an inspirational autobiography that provides vivid snapshots into her life's journey as a child growing up in public housing in Long Branch. Leslie launched Woman of the Dream in 2012 in partnership with Campbell Soup Company under the leadership of then President and CEO Denise Morrison. And Leslie convened 32 Black women graduates of Simmons College, a private women's college in Boston, and her alma mater for a focus group that involved guided discussions on where they began in their life. And now Leslie will share with us more about that. So I'm going to stop right there because there's so much I could have read. I mean, you have pages of a phenomenal resume. So I always ask everybody, how does it feel when you hear it back? Doesn't it sound exhausting?
It does. It does sound exhausting. And I find myself, when I hear people reading my bio, I find myself asking myself, did I do all that? And when did I do all that? And no, it does. It sounds amazing, and particularly amazing for someone like myself who came out of public housing projects. You know, I am the daughter of, parents who never finished high school, My mom immigrated or migrated from, the South to the North during the Great Migration period of the 40s. And along with my grandmothers and they came to the North with nothing more than the clothes on their back and a dream that their children would have better opportunities than they did. And they embraced the dream of Martin Luther King and encouraged us to take advantage of opportunities that were denied them because of segregation and Jim Crow and racism. And it's amazing that I have been able to accomplish what I have accomplished based on some very, very humble beginnings in this world.
Now you're embracing the dream for so many girls, which is, we'll get to that in a minute, but when you said the word, they came with that dream. It's amazing how you're working for an organization who has that word right in the title.
Right.
So we know you grew up in Long Branch and we know that your family migrated up north, but when you were growing up, tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you more of a shyer child? Were you more of an outgoing child? How were you in school?
Oh, no, I never had a shy bone in my body. No one would ever describe me as a shy child. Actually, I've always been I was a very outgoing child. I've always been a very outgoing person. But I think for me, my mother, I grew up hearing my mother encourage me to get a good education, take advantage of the opportunities that are available to you. I grew up hearing my mother say, I don't want you cleaning houses for a living like I have to do. That's all that I can do. That's all that I know. And I think I internalized that. And because I was a great student, I was always a good student, always got good grades in school. I loved to read. I was a voracious reader. And academia, school is where I was able to shine, okay? I got lots of support for getting good grades and being a smart child. And my mother used to take the books, the magazines out of the garbage that her employers would throw away. She would take those magazines out of the garbage and would bring them home to me because I loved reading magazines. So I started reading like Cosmopolitan and Good Housekeeping when I was a very little girl, because those are the magazines that her employees would get into their homes. And when they would throw them away, she would bring them home to me. And I would read those magazines. And to this day, I am a subscriber to a number of magazines. I still love to read magazines. And so that my interest in reading, my interest in education was nurtured by my mother and by other members of my family. And so no matter how bad things were at home at times, when my mom and dad separated, when my mom was struggling, I always held on to the fact that I did well in school and that I could take that, okay, and run with it and have a better life for myself if I continue to do well in school and go to college and get a good education, that I could have that better life than my mom had. And so that was a source of self-esteem for me. So no matter what was going on, I always made sure that I did well in school. And that, in addition to the fact that, I was a child that was not afraid, to take on challenges, to take on new things in my life. And, I had some challenges. I mean, there was a point in my life where I was really acting out, when my mom and my dad separated. It was a source of pain in my life at that time. And I started acting out and I was getting into trouble. At the age of 13, I had my first encounter with the juvenile justice system. I got into a gang fight that resulted in a court appearance in juvenile court. And it was a really, really bad period in my life. But no matter what was going on, I always made sure that I did well in school. So even when I got suspended, I was the type of kid that would go around to all my teachers and get the assignment so I didn't fall behind in school.
They were
Okay.
probably very surprised that you even got suspended because they knew that you cared so much about your academics.
Absolutely. And people used to say, Leslie is so smart, but she's always getting into trouble. She's fighting, she's out there, she's fighting, she's getting into trouble. But I always did well in school. And I remember when I went to court at the age of 13 for this gang fight that I got involved with. And I'll never forget the judge said to me, it was 4 of us that were involved, and we were standing before him, and he had all of our school records. His name was Judge Weinstein, Judge Leo Weinstein, who was the juvenile judge for Monmouth County. And we were all standing before him. He had our school records, and he looked at me and he said, "You are," and I was in 8th grade. He said, "You are a straight A and B student. There is no reason for you to be standing in front of me." He said, "Don't ever come back into this court again." He said, "You got a lot of potential, young lady, and you can go on to do great things. And I want to see you do that." I never forgot that. And when I became successful and when I was writing the book, because his name is in my book, okay, in the chapter on juvenile delinquent, I went back to talk to him and to say, yes, I did go on to do good things in my life, but he was already deceased. Yeah.
What a great way to remember him, and for people to remember his name and know the goodness that his words of wisdom instilled. Yeah. Where can people buy the book, Leslie? Because I know I want to.
The book is out of print right now, only because I want to upgrade it, update it. I may have one copy here in the house that I can send to you, but the book is no longer on sale. The book was actually released in 2007, so it's been a while. And I did not have, after the last book sold, I did not have the book reprinted, but I may have 1 or 2 copies here that I could send to you. Absolutely.
That would be amazing. It sounds like it's got to be an incredible story. But if you ever do put it out in print, you let me know, because I'll be advertising it for you. Because
absolutely.
Yeah. Your story, I didn't know this part, of your story, and I think it's incredible. So you go from being in middle school, kind of being a troublemaker, but a straight A student, and then now let's get you through to the fact that you go to college, right? So so now what is your After all of that happens, you obviously, I would think, you didn't make it back into the court after those words of wisdom that the judge gave you.
Yes.
Which doesn't always happen. So kudos to you for listening, and that message, really, you taking that message home with you. So what did you want to be when you grew up? Like when you were going?
You know what? When I got into high school, again, I continued to do well in school. And I knew I wanted to go into a helping profession. I wanted to be either a nurse or I wanted to go into clinical social work. And so I knew I wanted to go into a helping profession. I also knew I wanted to go to college, but I had no idea how that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I did not come from a family that had the money to send me to college. I knew that if I attended college, that it would have to be on one of those scholarships that were being made available to Black kids from poor areas back then. But I didn't even know how to access that, Yeah. So I continued to do well in school. And then my senior year, a door of opportunity opened for me. And at that point, when Simmons College started recruiting, I was just beginning to fill out applications for college, but again, still didn't know how all of this would play out. And right at that time, this was 1970, white schools, institutions across the country were recruiting Black students to integrate their schools. This was during the height of the civil rights movement. And white institutions were told that if you don't integrate your schools and start admitting Black students, you will lose federal funding. This is all part of the civil rights legislation. So white schools started hiring Black recruiters to scour the barrios, the ghettos, Black neighborhoods across the country, Hispanic neighborhoods, to recruit kids who were poor, but bright, motivated, and had the potential to succeed in college. Simmons College hired a Black recruiter by the name of Brenda Franklin, who is also named in my book. And she came to my high school, to Long Branch High School, to talk to Black students about not only attending Simmons College in Boston, but to say that we have money available to provide to you so that you can attend our school. And my guidance counselor, God bless her, Theodora Apostolakis was my guidance counselor. And when Brenda Frank, who was also mentioned in my book, and when the book came out, Miss Apostolakis and I got together, and she actually went on the book tour with me, okay, to talk about how she introduced me to Simmons. If it were not for her, I would not have been exposed to that opportunity. When Brenda Franklin came to my high school, and I'm not sure how Long Branch High School was selected, it doesn't matter. She talked with my guidance counselor and said, we have 4-year scholarships available to your brightest and your poorest students. Okay, and I was one of the students that she selected. She said, I want you to talk to Leslie Morris. And she actually called me out of my English class to come down to the guidance office to talk to this recruiter. And I remember that day very vividly. And when the call came into the classroom, we had those little intercoms, and the call came in, send Leslie Morris to the office, and all my friends go, oh, what did you do? And I remember thinking, I didn't do anything. Why am I being called to the office? I also remember kind of being a little attitudinal because I was in the middle of an exam, and I wanted to finish my exam, and I didn't want to have to come back and then miss walking home with my friends and all of that stuff. So I went down to the office with sort of an attitude, and there was this very pretty collegiate looking Black woman named Brenda Franklin standing there with her briefcase. And I sat down to speak with her. And that was the beginning of my exposure to Boston and Simmons College. And I remember when she told me about Simmons, and I remember saying, I don't want to go to all girls school, you know. Then it eventually evolved into an all women's college, okay, but all girls school. And they actually paid for me to come to Boston to spend a week on Simmons College campus. And that trip, that week that I spent on the campus of Simmons College in Boston, totally, absolutely transformed my life. And I came back to Long Branch just committed to going to Boston, giving this college a try. I mean, I was totally intimidated by all these smart women, Jewish women, Black women. And I remember saying to myself, I'm not so sure I can compete with these women. These are really smart women with goals, top 10% of their class. But I was willing to give it a try. And I came back totally transformed and really ready to go to Boston and to attend this college. And Simmons was predominantly Jewish, and it still is. And I remember my mother always worked for Jewish families as a housekeeper. And I remember when I got accepted into Simmons, and she was telling her Jewish employers, they weren't that supportive. You know, the maid's daughter is going to Simmons College, you know, this college with predominantly Jewish women. They were not that supportive. And they didn't really give my mother flack, but my mother could sense that the maid's daughter from the housing projects should not be attending a Simmons College on a 4-year scholarship. That's a whole nother story. I did talk about that in the book as well. And I got
a very important. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but a very important topic. One that's, you know, obviously one that we're talking about now to this day. It's even problem now. And I am sorry that you had to deal with that. It's incredible that that's the thing that you know. But I'm glad you put it in the book. You know what?
Yeah, I did talk about that. And I went on to, and you know, it's so important because when I talk to my girls today, you know, I talk about the importance of having goals, but you not only have to have goals, you have to have resources to make your goals and your dreams a reality. So once I got accepted into Simmons, my dream of going to college became a reality because now I have something tangible in my hand to make my goals, to make my dream a reality. And that was financial assistance. You know, you can't tell kids to be something, do something, and then not give them the resources that they need to bring that to fruition. You know, so before Simmons, it was just a dream. It was a goal and it was a dream, but I had no idea how to make that dream a reality. And then when Simmons came along and offered me a 4-year, everything was paid for. My tuition, my room and board, my books, you know, I even got a little spending money, and all those programs have been dismantled, which makes it much harder for poor kids today to go to college. I didn't come out of Simmons owing a dime, not one single dime. So it was so important for all of the kids of that era from poor backgrounds who were able to go to schools like Simmons and Yale and Harvard, where you had a large presence of poor Black children during that time period because of the civil rights legislation and the financial resources that were made available to kids like myself. All of those programs are gone now. And so it is so important, you know, I always say that we need to bring those programs back, you know, to make it as easy for kids today to go on to school without worrying about paying for all of the tuition, the room and board, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was a great opportunity. And I went on up to Simmons and did very well, graduated in 4 years, you know, in the honors, Simmons Honor Society. And going to Simmons was the best thing that ever happened to me. And if I had to do it all over again, and I'm still very much connected to my alma mater, very much involved, you know, just involved in the Alumni Association. That's and if I had to do it all over again, I would. And I just want to say too that I do think that going to a women's college was the best thing for me. I do not think for where I was emotionally at that time, it was the best setting for me. I not only found my voice as a woman at Simmons, but going to a women's college, I think was great for me because I didn't have all of the distractions of a co-ed institution. I don't think I would have done as well had I gone to a co-ed school. I don't think I would have done as well. So I think that it was fate, that I was supposed to be there, and it turned out for me. And I promote women's colleges. One of the girls that we gave a scholarship to Saturday, Zamina Faulkner, is going to Barnard College in New York, okay, which is the women's part of Columbia University. She's going to Barnard. And so I'm so happy that she's going to a women's college. I promote women's institutions. I think it's great to be in an atmosphere with other smart women and where the focus is on preparing women for leadership.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said about it, it helps you to find your own voice without the distractions. I think that was so well put.
Right.
Because, you know, for some that is something that they really need. And it works not for every woman, but for many it does. And I think it's important to know where are you going to thrive? And
right.
You think you might thrive over here and then you switch. And it's okay to do that too, as long as you get to where you need to be.
Exactly.
I want to make sure now the story of Women of the Dream is it kind of goes in with that with Simmons too. And so, but it starts off between you and Denise Morrison, who was the CEO and president of Campbell Soup and Company. And you met Denise way back when in Long Branch, right? So that's where that's
right. We're both Long Branch kids. We met up, I believe, either in junior high school or high school, but we graduated from Long Branch High School in the same class. So Denise and I probably connected in the 9th grade when we started high school. She grew up in another neighborhood in Long Branch. And we often talk about that. During that time, Long Branch was very segregated. So, you know, from K through 6, you know, I went to my neighborhood school. And so I didn't have a whole lot of encounters with white kids, because I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood, whereas Denise grew up in Elbron, which was all white and Jewish. So, but Long Branch is a small town. So, in seventh grade, we had one junior high school, Long Branch Junior High School, Long Branch High School. Seventh grade, everybody came together. The schools, the junior high school, the high school was very, very integrated. So everybody came together. And so I'm not sure if Denise went to junior high with me, but definitely high school. And we went through 4 years of high school together, and we graduated together. And ironically, we ended up attending, both of us ended up attending college in Boston. So she went to Boston College, and I was over at Simmons. And then I went to Boston College for my first master's degree as well. So Denise and I have remained connected through our high school reunions and gatherings. And I have watched her climb the corporate ladder. I have read about her climbing the corporate ladder over the years. And so in 2011, we were at the home of a mutual friend, Colleen Ellis, who also graduated from Long Branch High School with us. And Denise and I, Colleen was hosting just a small gathering of those of us who were in the class of 71. And Denise was there, and we were just standing there just talking, and I was telling her, well, I'm kind of ready to retire, and, I would like to start something for African-American girls, organization, or write a book or something.
Right.
And at that time, she had just been appointed president and CEO at Campbell's, and I was congratulating her and how Long Branch is so proud of her. And we were just talking, and she said, well, why don't you share your vision for starting this organization with me in writing? Send me a proposal, and maybe I can give you some seed money. And I did. I put together a proposal, and Women of the Dream was born. And she sponsored that first focus group where I identified 32 very successful African-American women from across the classes at Simmons. And we had a focus group at Campbell Soup Company. And Women of the Dream was born on June the 12th, 2012. And the focus group was sort of a guided discussion on kind of where we started in life, what challenges we've encountered, and how we are using our resources to give back to this new generation of girls. And I wasn't thinking nonprofit at that point. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with all this data that I was collecting. But eventually, I decided to start a nonprofit organization. And it's Camden-based because Campbell Soup provided the foundation for that organization.
Isn't it incredible how one conversation that we don't even know we're going to have?
Exactly.
Right?
And it was, yeah, absolutely. And I do think it was meant to be. I think we were supposed to have that conversation. I think that many times, the universe, God, or whatever you conceive your God to be, has goals. And sometimes we align ourselves with those goals and those dreams. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we miss the point. But I do think that my vision was kind of aligned with the universe's vision, and for me, and it all happened. It all came together, and I started Women of the Dream, and we are now a nonprofit organization providing services to girls ages 12 to 18 in the city of Camden. We just had our big scholarship event on Saturday. We're growing. We gave out $40,000 in scholarships, and I can tell you that my Simmons network carries this organization. It carries this organization. We have some highly successful, high-profile Black women who have out of Simmons who have gone on to do some wonderful things and who now have the resources to support this organization. The Brattain Foundation, which comes out of Deborah Brattain's foundation, who is a graduate of Simmons Graduate School of Social Work, provided the $20,000 for Zamina Faulkner to go to Columbia University. That came from a Black woman who was a graduate of Simmons. Paula Sneed, who was the first vice president at Kraft Foods, supports this organization, has provided hundreds of thousands of dollars for girls to go to college. Leonae Jones, who is a graduate of Simmons and a graduate of Stanford Law School, an MBA program. You know, these are women who now have the resources to support this organization. And we get a yearly corporate donation from Simmons College every year.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible.
So accessing my Simmons network has really allowed us to grow and to evolve to this point.
Tell us a little bit about your programming. We know that you get scholarships for the girls to go to college, but what are your day-to-day types of programs?
Yes, so we have two core programs. We have our life skills program, and that program provides services to girls from 7th grade to 10th grade. So we enroll our girls into 7th grade, and they're with us all the way through high school graduation. So we don't provide just one-time only programs. So we enroll the girls in 7th grade. So from 7th grade to 10th grade, they are in the life skills program. And that program provides them with the skills that they will need, not only as adolescents, but as they transition into adult life, to survive, to make good decisions, to manage family dynamics, to select mates. All of those topics we cover. So we talk about decision-making, problem solving. We have a whole financial literacy component where our girls learn about banking and stocks and bonds. And we talk about the difference between home ownership and renting. And we talk about mortgages. And we talk about household management. We talk about conflict resolution. We have about 10 to 12 topics that we take the girls through over a 3 to 4 year period. And along with that, we have the outside activities to not supplement, to complement what they're learning in the classroom. So for example, I took 8 girls to Boston to Simmons College in 2018. Their pictures are on the website. I took 8 girls up to my Black alumni reunion. And the college was just so impressed. And they rolled out the red carpet for these girls. And these were 8 girls who were from the life skills program, who had never been that far away from home. Most of them had never stayed in a hotel. They were in Boston with me for 4 days. Wow. And they not only attended the leadership conference and were able to meet high profile, very successful Black women, but they gave them a spot to participate in the leadership conference, okay, the reunion. So we have many trips to complement what we do in the classroom. And then after 10th grade, then they transition into the college prep career workforce readiness program. So for their last 2 years of high school, we are now preparing them to graduate, to go to college, to join the workforce, and we're giving them the skills and the tools that they will need to do that. That is a very huge component because many of the girls do go on to college, and we help them with financial aid applications, college applications, interviews, all of that. And we prepare them for the workforce is ready, because some girls do go right into working right after high school. And so we give them the tools and the resources that they need to transition from high school into college or whatever they decide to pursue. Very important, because so many poor kids leave high school without that level of preparation because they fall through the cracks, okay? Because, and particularly kids who are going to college. They need that level of assistance because they come from families where no one has gone to college. Many times the guidance counselors are overwhelmed. So we are able to kind of close that gap and prepare them for college. So on Saturday, every year we have that big scholarship event where we actually provide our girls with scholarships so that to help close some of the financial gap. I mean, they still need a lot more than what we can give them or what we give them, but it does help.
And when you were talking about all the programs that you provide to them, I have to say some of those programs are incredible because they're not even provided at the regular high school level. I mean,
right.
It's incredible how managing a checking account is really not even discussed.
Right, exactly.
My kids, didn't really go through any programming on that,
right.
or mortgage and rent. It was like very short window and literally like a week on it, and there's so much more to do. So what you're preparing and how you're getting them ready, I mean, is just so vital to their future. And
Absolutely.
Helped you to take those steps to be where you are. You're doing that for so many other girls. So kudos to you. I know you won a Citizen of the Year award.
I did. That was surprising. I remember when I got the notification that I was getting Citizen of the Year award. I said, wow, that's a lot of pressure. I have to live up to that award. But yes, I did get that from the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, which is a Black fraternity. And Michael Brown, who is on our board and is actually the chair of our scholarship committee, nominated me for that award. He is a member of Omega. And the first year he started working with Women of the Dream, and then he took over as the chair of the scholarship committee, as well as, a member of the board. He was just so impressed with the work that we do. And he came onto the board, not fully realizing the intensity of our work, not fully realizing the extent to what we do and the impact that we're making on the kids in Camden, that he felt that I should be nominated for that award. So, yeah, it was heartfelt, really and truly.
That's amazing. And then there's this amazing picture of you talking to Oprah on your website. So you got a moment of fame there with her.
I did. And meeting Oprah was on my bucket list. Okay, that's been on my bucket list for years and years. And I never thought I would meet her. But I got the opportunity when she launched her national tour right before COVID hit early last year. I guess the late 2019, 2020, she was on this national tour, and Brooklyn, New York was one of her stops, and at the Barclays Center. And I was able to get a VIP ticket to attend this event. The VIP ticket provided direct access to her. We had our own lunch. We had the opportunity to meet with her, talk with her, and then the photo opportunity. And my goal really was to talk with her about Women of the Dream and to present her with one of our promotional packages, because hopefully one day I can, she will support Women of the Dream. So it was an incredible, amazing day. And when you, I don't know if you know Oprah's story, but I mean, she started life very, very, very humble beginnings. Poor Black girl down in Mississippi, and the whole thing. And she talked about that at the show that day. But just meeting her was incredible, and talking with her, it's just like talking with you. I mean, she's very, very down to earth. She's very engaging, very easy to talk with. And I told her, I said, you are on my bucket list. And I remember she said, you need to get a bigger bucket list.
Well, that is very down to earth. I think Oprah's on so many people's bucket lists, right? So it's on so many. So what an incredible opportunity to share Women of the Dream.
Yeah, and I did. I gave her a packet. I haven't heard from her. I am on her listserv. I do get the inspirational quotes from her every day. But, who knows? Who knows where that might go?
And so you never know. We're going to make sure to tag her in this interview, so that way she'll get to see you again, hopefully, and we'll just tag
social media.
So we'll be saying hi to Oprah soon. But I wanted to see about how do people find you? Like, how do people find your organization?
So, and a lot of my volunteers just find me just by Googling organizations serving Black girls or mentoring, and Women of the Dream comes up. So we have a beautiful website, womenofthedream.org. And then, how else do people find? Oh, and then we also have the Facebook page, the Women of the Dream Facebook page. And then we're also on Instagram and Twitter. And then people find us too by word of mouth. You know, just like yesterday, I walked into this meeting. I just received a grant from the Camden Education Fund. And I wrote that grant to provide mental health services to kids when they return to school in September, because with the pandemic, you know, that's a source of trauma for many kids in underserved areas. And they're going to return to school with lots and lots of challenges, and schools have to be positioned to serve the needs of these kids. And so we're being proactive in that we are positioning ourselves to meet some of the mental health, psychosocial challenges that these kids are going to return to school with. So yesterday we had a meeting with the Camden Education Fund, the grantees, to just kind of talk about a lot of different things. And when I walked into the room, the executive director of the Camden Education Fund said, "I heard you had a phenomenal scholarship event on Saturday." And I said, "How did you know that?" She said, "It's in the newspaper."
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know there was anyone in the room covering that event. I did not know that, but apparently there was, and so somebody actually emailed the newspaper to me, the article, and I read it, and it was a very, very nice article on the work that Women of the Dream is doing in Camden, and the money we gave out on Saturday, and the number of girls that we are impacting, making a difference in their lives. That's word of mouth, you know? And I didn't even know the article existed. I did not know that there was an article in Tap Into Camden on that event. So as we grow, people begin to hear about us, hear about the work that we're doing. And I'm old school. I still think that word of mouth is a good way to getting the word out about the work that we're doing.
Without a doubt.
Social media and your website, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, people want a place that they can see, and where else would they see you and Oprah together if they don't go to the website, right? So
exactly. And lots of people, and on the website, and on the Women of the Dream Facebook page, that same picture is right there. You know, I don't know if she'll ever see it, but it's there. You know, it is definitely there, and it's one of my proudest moments.
Well, you have so many, I mean, really incredible, in your incredible career and the work that you're doing every day. I ask every guest this question towards the end of the interview. And the question is, if you knew then what you know now, what would that be?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
No problem. If you knew then what you know now, what would that be? What would you tell your younger self?
If I knew then what I know now, what would I tell my younger self?
Yes.
I don't know. That's a really, really hard question. I don't know what I would tell my younger self if I knew then what I know now. I'm just trying to think.
Is there a lesson that you tell the girls that you're like, wow, you know, I learned that now, and I wish I knew that when I was younger? Is there anything that
I don't know. I don't know. Because usually what I tell the girls, I try to pass some of the lessons on to them that I learned as a child growing up. So for me, one of the things that I tell my girls, but I also got this message myself, is the importance of being self-sufficient. The importance as a woman of being independent and being self-sufficient. And I think too many of our girls are growing up without that message. Okay. And so I think that, and so I say to my girls that relationships are wonderful, but that you should not look to a relationship to make you feel whole or to feed your self-esteem, that a relationship should enhance what you have already created for yourself. Okay, so what I tell my girls is to get yourself enough education so that if you want a house or a condo or a townhouse, that you're able to buy that yourself, that you don't have to depend on a mate to do that for you. Okay, and that level of independence was definitely passed on to me by my mom. I guess if I had to tell the younger Leslie something about that, it would probably be, but don't be so independent, okay, that don't be independent to a fault, okay? And I think that I have been independent to a fault, that I wish that I would have been a lot more open to not being, I don't know how to say this, that I have been extremely independent, and it has not made it very easy for me to embrace being in a relationship.
I think thank you for sharing that, because I think that's where the balance is, right?
Right. Yeah, you do have to find that balance. And I don't think I've done that very well. Okay. So
it's never too late, my friend.
Yeah. So, so that would probably be one of the things, that I am extremely, extremely independent. And that probably stems from a lot of things that has occurred in my life. But I've never wanted to be dependent on anyone. And so I do tell my girls that you need to find that balance, and not be so, it's great to be an independent, self-sufficient woman, but not to the point where you are not willing to embrace being in a healthy relationship, because I do stress the importance of being in a healthy relationship and not settling because society says you're supposed to be married and have children by a certain age. And I think that our girls are still getting that kind of message, that if you're 30, you're not married yet, you don't have children, what's wrong with you? And that a lot of our young women, they settle and they end up in unhealthy relationships because of the pressure, So I do try to teach my girls, kind of how to pick up on red flags. I teach my girls to understand the need to set standards in relationships, but to also set standards for themselves, and to not be afraid to be their own person, but at the same time, to be open to a healthy relationship when it comes along, and to be able to recognize a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy one. So
also on the other side of that too, with which you brought up, and I think is important too, is when you do have that independence, because I totally understand what you're saying. I too am very independent, is that you, even if somebody good does come in, you kind of start to try to see the red flags just because you don't want to lose your independence. And that's when the
right. Exactly. You
got
to have that balance.
Exactly. So now, again, what is your website?
www.women, that's plural, womenofthedream.org, and Facebook, Women of the Dream, Twitter, Women of the Dream, and Instagram, Women of the Dream.
You have it covered, and I hope you'll come back on and give us updates, because you're doing such incredible work. I really would love to have the audience listen in to updates and learn more and more about your organization.
Thank you for having me. This is great. This is my first time participating in it's an iPod. What is it?
Podcast.
Okay. See, I did so many different
I know.
acronyms and terms out there, I can't keep them all straight. This is my first time, I think. Yes. So this has been great.
I'm honored. I'm honored that I'm your first podcast. So thank you so much. Thank you. So thank you to Leslie Morris. Please go visit Woman of the Dream online. It's all over, as Leslie mentioned. And I'm going to close out, as I always close out, with the my ending mantra, which is: today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what are you going to do today to take one small or large step to get yourself closer to your goals? Have a great week, everyone. Bye, Leslie.
Bye-bye. Thank you.